Hey everyone, this is Scott Ian from Anthrax, and you are watching Richard Metal Fan.
Thanks, Scott. Hey everyone, Richard Metalfan here, bringing you the final part of the four-part album reviews, and we're going to be looking into this album, who also turned 30 today, and it's from one of the best bands in the Big Four, and as you can see below the title, today we're going to be looking into Persistence of Time by Anthrax, the band's fifth album released on August 21st, 1990 through Megaforce/Island Records. Now, this is, of course, their fifth album. It's the first album with the new decade, 1990, after their main run in the 80s. And this album, of course, follows up their previous album, State of Euphoria. And with this album, compared to this, after like their first few albums, it's more like about like the humor and comic book references, and even like Among the Living making references to about Stephen King and stuff. This album's like the tone of this album is a lot more like darker and more mature than like what we've heard from previous albums, and like a lot of people would have mixed feelings about this album, with this sort of like either loving or hating sort of like the darker sound or tone, which I mean, I don't really give a shit. I think this is a pretty good album, and this album also introduces sort of like a progressive side to the music, which has not been shown on previous albums, while sort of like having a sort of like reduced like thrash elements, but also has like, well, it does have thrash elements like the fast tempo and aggression, but still pretty good. Now, this album is, like I said, it's kind of like a different like era for Anthrax. Like just like musically, like I said, it's more darker. Like the vocals, like from Joey Belladonna entirely. This will be the last time we would hear Joey Belladonna until, oh, for almost 20 years, which is kind of crazy. But I think this is a good album for him to end his run with. And like he said, he has a really great range, and like one of the best vocalists in thrash. Guitar work, Scott Ian and Dan Spitz, like the riffs that Scott comes up with is great, and just the leads that Dan does is great. And this is actually the last album to have like the classic like Anthrax line. That was pretty much from Spreading the Disease to this. So yeah. Bass wise, Frank Bello, like his bass, like is pretty much really turned up to the mix. Kind of similar with like Steve Harris from Iron Maiden has his bass up in the mix. It's the same thing with Anthrax. And drumming wise, Charlie Benate's drumming is just superb. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is Time, which starts off with a little bit of like a ticking of a clock, and then the ticking just gets faster and faster, and then sort of like a weird like little guitar comes in, and then some chugging guitars come in with some drums, and then it just kicks it off, and it's just very mid-paced song, and the chorus is just very catchy, and it gets really stuck in the head. Good song to start off this album. Then we go into Blood, which is an awesome, just catchy song, which is anchored by just like some really great rhythm, along with some chugging, thrashy riffs, some heavy pounding bass lines, and just some really great drum beats. And I love sort of like Joey's vocals are just amazing. And definitely another one of my favorite songs on here. Then we go into Keep It in the Family, which begins pretty slow and menacing with a very good riff, and then pounding bass and drums, and then the song would build into like a fast, catchy, upbeat song, and then Joey just really shows his vocals here, and the song features some really good lyrics, plus sort of like a great chorus and an amazing like can't even speak today, an amazing solo, but also melodic from Dan. Then we go into another one of my favorite songs on here, which is In My World, which I mean, I remember first hearing that song when the Anthrax actually appeared on an episode of the show Married with Children, and they actually played this song in this episode, which has, the song itself is pretty good. It has sort of like gloomy kind of like riffs and some heavy thumping pounding beats, and the chorus is just also melodic and catchy, and it has more of like Joey's sort of like dark and angry, but also has a little bit of like melodic vocal deliveries too. Then we go into the next song on the album, which is called Gridlock, which is a fast thrasher that just keeps the momentum going as the song sort of like goes into another assault of seething, fiery re-riffing, and just some insane like double bass drummings and some aggressive yet melodic vocals as well. Intro into Reality. It starts off with some opening dialogue, which is from like the Twilight Zone or some shit, and then the song sort of like goes into some like slow, haunting melodic guitars, and sort of like the drums come in like halfway, and the song gets more heavier, and it just keeps building on from there. Then we move on to Belly of the Beast, which is just incredibly just bass heavy, and it also has a little bit of like thrashy, more melodic. It meets melody, and it's highlighted by sort of like some really great chugging riffs and some great bass lines and some drumming, excellent drumming throughout, and Joey's amazing vocals. Then we go on to another one of Anthrax's well-known songs, which is "Got the Time," which is actually a cover song originally done by Joe Jackson, and this is pretty much where Frank Bello shines and he delivers a great bass intro. And I just like how he sort of like switches from near the beginning when he just plays the pick, and then the whole band comes in and he switches with his fingers, which is pretty great. And I especially love like right around near halfway through the song, he does like a little bass solo, which is pretty great, which I don't think you really hear bass solos in an Anthrax song, which is, I think he's a really good bassist in my opinion. One of my all-time favorite bassists. So yeah, in other words, "Got the Time," just a really catchy song, just very energetic. Then we move on to "Hate Red," which is like spelled H8 Red, which is another thrashy number. Just has some really chuggy thrashy riffage, heavy drumming, and but once again, it's like Joey's like incredible vocals that just works throughout this song, and especially during the chorus is just absolutely amazing. "One Man Stands." And this song is another good song that's just highlighted by some great riffing and some really great beats and an amazing chorus that you can't even sing along to. Oh, and then the album closes with "Discharge," which borderlines on like sort of like thrash. I can't even speak today. Borderlines between like the thrash attack. It's just some great riffage, frantic double bass drumming, and great bass lines and powerful vocals throughout. And we're treated with another great solo and just some amazing chorus that'll get pretty much a circle pit going. It's a really great way to end this album with. Now overall, "Persistence of Time" by Anthrax is another great album to their discography. If I were to give this album a score, I'm going to give "Persistence of Time" by Anthrax a solid 9 out of 10. So yeah, that's my review of the album, guys. Like I said, thank you guys for watching the 4-part reviews. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about "Persistence of Time," and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.